Hey, what you guys are about to see is a discussion Kevin and I had on what is Muay Khao and what is the Muay Khao Summit coming up in December, where we're going to bring in tons of legends of Muay Khao style, as well as the top Muay Khao female fighters of Thailand, and kind of jam all of that information session into a crazy boot camp summit style. You can watch that as a live stream. Link to that is in the description, where you can get access to that, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Okay, so this is a little bit of an interview style, talking about what Muay Khao is. We're having a Muay Khao Summit coming in December, and so this is kind of a message and discussion for the benefit of all the ladies attending the Muay Khao Summit, but it's also a way to maybe talk about Muay Khao in general. So maybe the first place to start is there's a broad dichotomy in Muay Thai, Muay Femur, and Muay Khao. Maybe talk about what is that natural division that kind of breaks these two things up into oppositions of each other.
I think firstly, just to clarify that it's all Muay Thai. There are not these hard line separations. But the differences between them are really interesting, and the variation within the styles that express the fighters who use them is really beautiful. So Muay Femur is something that people in the West are pretty familiar with, because the fighters that get a lot of exposure in the West tend to be of that style.
Like Samart, right?
Samart, Sanchai, kind of tricky, evasive, using technique to kind of frustrate and snuff the fight. Joe Hong Tong Noi actually said it really well. He said Femur's job is to annoy. You just annoy. And so it doesn't necessarily require very much power, because so much of it is technique and non-fighting. You distance and frustrating your opponent.
But also the Thai appreciation of the Femur style is you expend very little energy, you manage the fight, and then you produce very dramatic moments like a Samart knockout or a head kick from Sanchai.
Samart wins by a teep, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So the opposite style of that is Muay Khao, which Khao means to knee. So this is literally knee fighting, but it's not only knees. In effect and in performance, it's the opposite of Muay Femur, because it's chasing down the evasive, annoying fighter. So it's not being annoyed by not being able to catch them, and you just keep going. It's very insistent. The amazing thing about Yod Kun Pan's style is he does not care if he misses or hits your guard, or people are always the first 2 shots don't land so that the third does. If you amplify that to the first 9 don't land so that the final 4 do, kind of thing, he's very amazing in that Muay Khao ethic. And so it's the way that you can divide up the hunter and the hunted. How that happens, how you hunt is not a monolith, and how you are hunted is not a monolith. But the same way that Muay Khao and Muay Femur have different visual, performative experiences, that's why they're divided, and people love to match them together, because seeing that dynamic play out is very exciting.
Yeah, it's almost a little bit like the yin and yang, the tiger and the dragon. The Muay Femur is the dragon. It's
like when you have an MMA fight and you have a stand-up guy and a floor guy, and it's who's going to keep it in their realm is who's going to get away, and who's going to track is who's going to win the Muay Femur versus
Muay Khao. One of the really interesting things about the summit and the idea behind it is that Muay Khao is an energy. It's not it also is a set of techniques and tactics with different schools of how to win fights as a Muay Khao pressure fighter, but also bringing together the energies of these men, the great Muay Khao fighters of Thailand history, like Diesel Noi or Samson Asong or Long Sawan, that actually the energies are the most important part of Muay Khao. And so the Muay Khao Summit is going to be about really documenting and training and experiencing for the people in attendance those energies firsthand. It's like you could watch a tiger walk in a beautiful film, but to actually be in the room with a tiger is a different feeling.
Yeah. And it's also, in my experience with training with these legends for the Muay Thai library, people often ask me if I get confused by the fact that they give me different and often conflicting techniques. When you're actually in the room with them and see their entire style playing out in the way that they move, it makes sense why they choose this technique over that technique. And it's not like that one's right and this one's wrong. It's in that context it makes sense why you would do a knee this way instead of a knee that way, or why you would elbow.
For me, not to get too esoteric, but it really is, it's almost like talking about different poets that use words differently. And there are schools of poetry that tend to use a certain kind of like imagery or something, rhyming pattern, but all of them, because all the legends kind of used words differently, and so you can't, they're unique in who they are, so capturing that in a summit seminar type situation is kind of cool. The summit is kind of be divided up into stages. The first 3 days is we're just going to be training Muay Khao training styles, right? Pushing kind of a boot camp thing, but Yod Kun Pan, he's going to be watching over for 3 days and offering corrections. So he's going to be like moving around. It's not going to be a seminar type situation, but he's just going to move people towards his style. So for the people attending and people who are going to be watching the live stream, what is Yod Kun Pan's style? He's known as the elbow hunter of 100 stitches. He's kind of an incredible fighter. Nobody almost ever fought like him. And so we're going to be doing things like learning his footwork patterns. People often don't think of there being footwork patterns in Muay Thai. He has a very distinct footwork that he uses, and also he was the elbow hunter.
Yeah, and he uses an elbow sparring with me that we'll be working on. So
maybe talk a little bit about his gallop, his footwork that we're going to be, so that the summit people can kind of anticipate this.
The thing about Muay Khao that goes across style, so you have, Long Swan does not look like Diesel Noi in the ring, but they're both Muay Khao. The thing that threads through Muay Khao in this ethic and performance, how we're talking about this persistence hunting kind of thing, you have to cover distance. Like, you have to keep coming after your opponent. Joe Hong Tong Noi saying the femur is to annoy. He says Muay Khao is hungry boy. So he's just going. You cannot, A, be interrupted, because then you're being affected by the person who's like trying to keep you off and you're restarting all the time. So you have to have a fluidity to the way that you come forward. That's super important. If you're going and stopping, it's hard. So you have to have footwork that allows that. If you look at someone like Chumuk Pet, he literally looks like he's just walking. Like, doesn't break pace, just walking. When you watch Yod Kun Pan, he has this gallop that's like ballon in ballet.
Yeah.
Like he's like a balloon that's lost its helium, how it kind of like bounces along the floor. That's what Yod Kun Pan looks like going across the ring to elbow your fucking face, which is crazy that he's this like light thing and then just like so aggressive when he sticks to you. It's like, as long as he doesn't get to you, you're okay.
Yeah.
But once he gets to you and he sticks on you and he has that lightness of movement, his gallop is amazing because it allows him to cover so much distance without looking really stiff or interrupted.
Right.
It makes him hard to read because it makes me harder to read. I had a very like RoboCop walk before, and when I introduced his gallop, it allowed me to stay a step ahead of my opponent to like cut them off rather than always being a beat behind trying to catch. It changes what it looks like. If you're ahead, you're corralling, whereas if you're behind, you're chasing.
Right.
And his gallop allows technically for that to be possible and visually for it to look very different.
And what's kind of also interesting is that this is the little art, like Femur is supposedly artistic, but the contrast between his balloon-like foot movement and the viciousness of his elbows, that's the art of what he's doing. He's creating a contrast between an ease of movement and then a sudden explosion of 3 elbows, 2 of which land on the guard and the last one lands. This isn't Muay Khao footwork. This is Yod Khum Pan's footwork.
Right.
So we're gonna, for the first 3 days, work on this footwork, but it might not connect to you.
Yeah, like, it might not be for you.
Or you might just use this footwork 1 out of 10 steps to just take a little gallop step and then go back into your other rhythm. Like, it's a lot of this Muay Khao Summit is, and for people watching the stream also, it's you're picking up small things that resonate with you, right? And so the first 3 days we're going to be doing his footwork, which is so beautiful, and then we're going to be doing elbow sparring, which is something that he introduced with you, which is actually much less violent than it sounds, right?
Yeah, it is horrifying, but it's not as scary or violent as it sounds. It's basically staying in elbow range at all times and just trading elbows back and forth with a partner, not taking turns.
Yeah.
You keep your guard up, so you're hitting guard. You're not elbowing
each other's heads. It's hitting guard only, right? But be clear.
Yes, you're hitting guard. It's the same thing as if you were hitting someone's glove with a punch. So it's not dangerous, but it does not feel good to be in that tight. But it teaches you to not only not freak out by getting hit, but to answer back without making it a drill. Many people in the West are familiar with this kind of drilling with partners, where you like take turns doing the combination. The point of this is to break the idea of taking turns. It's like your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, mine, and you like break it. It's a brilliant drill.
And it can be done very lightly.
It can be done very lightly. It's not complicated, but it's not easy because it trains your emotional response. It is teaching you to answer back, and it teaches you to trust your guard because it's getting hit all the time. So you're like, I'm fine with that getting hit. Whereas a lot of people, when their guard is hit, they're like, oh my God, I don't want another one. So you're getting used to the contact. But the real story behind this type of exercise, and this one in particular, is who's going to quit first, which is Yod Khum Pan's style, is he does not quit first, ever. A lot of Muay Khao is taking your opponent's will, I guess. If you're chasing someone down, you're trying to get them to submit.
That's a pretty advanced version of this drill, this kind of sparring, though. Probably the summiters are going to just be trading contact, right?
Just get the not holy shit feeling going.
You're talking about what it felt like to go against Yod Khum Pan, who's got this energy.
But that's my experience, and that's why I fell in love with this drill, and that's why I'm like, other people need to do this.
Yeah, and maybe people can do this a little bit with Yod Khum Pan also, which would be really interesting, just so you feel the energy. Yeah. One of the more interesting things I think about Muay Khao is that you learn to fight in the phone booth. There's this, and that's what this elbow sparring is about, is you want to fight in territory where your opponent is not comfortable, like where they close their eyes or they tense their muscles. That in some ways, just being able to stand in that zone is a victory and a tactic all on its own, right? So the elbow sparring of Yod Khum Pan is about just getting your feet wet in that zone and trying to stay in as long as you can, because it's a little claustrophobic.
It's one of those things where you have an advantage anytime you're like, I've been here before.
Yeah.
And it's a big advantage if your opponent hasn't.
Yeah.
That's why experience matters. That's why like the way you train matters. It's just, I've done this before. I've been here before. And
this is a kind of unexplored area for a lot of people, even some Thais. But people train at pad holder range, where the pad holder is always 3.2 feet away from you, right? Or they train, some of them clinch, right? So the clinch range, right? So they're tightly interlocked. Muay Khao fighting honestly really happens
just between
in
those two.
between them in the no man's land.
Yeah.
And training in that range gives you a really distinct advantage because you're fighting somewhere. If you get comfortable there, you're fighting somewhere where your opponent probably never spends any time. So a large part of Muay Khao is creating continuity in that zone to elevate the heart rate of your opponent, right? So after Yo Kumpan is going to be supervising this, top female knee fighters of Thailand are going to come and train with us. Such a cast of great female fighters maybe has never even been put on a card, really. Right? Sao Sing, epic fighter. Nong Bu, rising world champion knee fighter. Sai Fa, who is like world champion at 15, like great knee fighter. Dork my ball. These are incredible fighters. If you just watched one fight of them, you're blessed. It's going to be basically 3 days, more or less, of them coming to train with the female fighters to teach how they train, but also to train right alongside. Like we're not quite sure how it's going to work out, but it's basically mixing the highest level of Thai female knee fighting in with people learning Muay Khao and raising themselves up. Can you maybe talk a little bit about this, like what Muay Khao means for female fighters in Thailand, especially maybe?
Muay Khao is not generally a female fighting style. That doesn't mean there aren't knee fighters, but the kind of...
How do you want to say this? You seem like you're struggling.
I am struggling
to say the right words as a good feminist.
Because I'm introducing a line of thought that cuts through so much context that I do not have time to explain, and so you don't want to misrepresent what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, maybe start talking about how Thai female fighters often fight, the style they often fight.
To grossly oversimplify, much of female fighting in Thailand is leaning towards Femur. It's beautiful, it's technical, and it's far more sport-like. Male fighting and female fighting in Thailand have this divide between them. Even in the same space, when you see them on the same card, even in the same gym, when you see two people from the same gym. And
you're losing me a little bit, babe.
I'm setting up for something. I'm not talking about like in Asan. There are places in Asan where girls are tough as shit and like super Muay Khao and fight super hard. If you look at like a Chiang Mai or Bangkok or kind of like a bigger permanent stadium type of place, when I watch a male fight versus a female fight, the dominance in a male fight takes a high position in any fight, even if they're not skilled. You do not have to be Femur, you do not have to be very experienced, but dominance plays a big role in male fighting. In female fighting, it's very much more a point system. You're winning a game.
It's point fighting, what they call point fighting,
For women, it's a sport. For men, the dominance is really important. That's why I really gear myself towards more masculine idols, people that I look at, all these things. I like that fighting. Because of this, like, evasiveness, clever, tricky, beautiful, don't need a lot of power, you get
which
way
is a
more,
beautiful skill. Fighting.
I'm not dismissing it at all, but it tends to be female fighting is that way. So when you get a fighter like Sao Sing or Nong Bu who have bloody faces and are fucking coming, and like Sao Sing will fight people who are bigger than her and just fucking stand in there, and she is not male, but she is harnessing that same masculinity that men are when they're like, this fucking dominance is real. This is real in this ring. And she's not like angry or aggressive, but it's like, you do not take my space, and it's amazing. And that's Muay Khao ethic. So she is a female fighter, not looking male, but using this male performance that goes with Muay Khao in a beautiful way. Nong Bu, broken nose, fucking coming at her opponent to win that world championship fight. You don't see women like this. There are a lot
in Thailand, especially.
In Thailand, there are a lot of Thai women who once elbows are even thrown, not even landing, back up. Like, they don't really want part of that. Sao Sing, Nong Bu, Dork My Ba, who throws so many elbows, she's like in. It's like in.
And what's interesting...
Saifa also has been cut in fights.
What's very interesting is that even though the majority of Thai female fighters are Femur, if you looked at the best female fighters in Thailand, a large portion of them are Muay Khao fighters that have embraced this kind of dominance and aggression.
Because they're catching those fucking annoying, evasive fighters.
So we're going to get to see in the summit basically a kind of mixing of students and Western fighters mixing together with the top female knee fighters and get to tap into what makes them what they are.
I'm excited about this because a lot of women who come to train in Thailand, we don't get the opportunity to train with Thai women. The gyms that accept Thai Western women don't have their own female Thai fighters, largely speaking. There might be one or two in a gym who are kind of in the end of their careers being taken into the gyms semi as trainers or as like this
which
is one
is
of
a
our
beautiful
fighters.
Thing that's happening.
It's awesome because they have this position that's really beautiful in the gym and you're looking at a great fighter in your space. This is training with them. This is clinching with them. This is watching how they train and how they've done when they're getting ready. Sao Sing's getting ready for a fight, watching her get ready for a fight. She's doing her fight
camp with us. Because I think she fights like 2 days after she leaves us.
She leaves us and fights the next day, yeah. She's so awesome. I fucking geek out when I watch Sao Sing. Oh, she's so tough.
And so the crazy thing is after the 3 days or so of training with the female fighters, then come in the greatest Muay Khao fighters that have ever fought. Not one, not two, not three. Like, it's like an incredible list of basically energies that are coming in. This is the living heritage of Muay Khao. Muay Khao isn't even fought the way that it was fought when these men fought.
No, it's changed. Femur is also different, but yeah.
Yeah, but we're bringing in Diesel Noi, the greatest knee fighter ever, who, even if you took nothing, just his energy. Maybe talk a little bit about the energy of these people. Like,
Diesel Noi is like as close to a champion in the sense of like a knight who fights for honor kind of thing. Like,
okay, I'm not following you on that. I see him as just this relentless machine of knees that every second of every fight, even those he's watching, is like life and death.
Yeah, because if he sees someone throwing a knee that's not to hurt someone, he's like, what are you doing? Like, that's what I mean by he's fighting for honor, is that how you fight says so much about you that he does not have forgiveness to backing down or not giving it your all or any of these things.
Or not throwing a knee that is to end the fight.
Kill somebody. Yeah. And he's just like he only has one setting, which is like really intense, to the point where you're trying to follow his verbal technical advice of like, where does my foot go? Or like, how do I angle my knee? Which is important. But even if you don't get your knee at that angle, if you throw it like you're trying to kill somebody, he's like, better. Like,
better.
That's it. You wanna train his heart first and foremost, and then his technique comes through it.
That's the kind of the interesting thing about the summit, is that because we're streaming live and we're also going to do maybe a 10-hour video edit with your commentary, is that we're capturing both things with Long Sawan or Samson Hassan. As much as these people are thought of as kind of like very aggressive, dominant fighters physically, there's tons of technique that they're using all the time. So there's so much Muay Khao technique on how to knee and when to knee, ring craft. But we're capturing that, and then we're also capturing their energies. Like the things you can read off their body and their face between techniques, or how they respond when something's not the way it should be. That you need both of these things to really understand Muay Khao, even to understand their techniques. Like you could get Diesel Noy's knee, which is kind of unique, but if you don't get the energy, you don't really understand it, right?
Yeah, but the technique is a way to take away tension from the wrong places. If you're like, I'm gonna go, like I'm gonna turn and I'm gonna like catch this person, you tend to tense up because it has this kind of aggressive thing. You cannot knee hard when you're tense. You cannot catch when you're tense. You can't breathe when you're tense. Like all the things that make Muay Khao effective and beautiful, you have to remove tension from. It's not a like tight, aggressive, whatever. Even Samson Hassan, who tucks his chin so hard his mouth opens, like that, and he puts his hands here like a tank. He's a tank, but he's like only tense where he needs to be. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what the days, just to go very quickly through it, the first day of Legends is going to be Karahat and Nam Kabun, which is a really interesting Muay Khao decision because they're both epic fighters, but neither was known as a Muay Khao fighter per se. Nam Kabun was just across the board spectrum fighter, very aggressive, but he was also known as a body throw. One of his nicknames, fight nicknames, was a body throw expert, because he would fight a Femur fight, and then in the fourth round he'd grab you and just fucking
throw you,
toss you 3 times in the round, and the fight would be over. So we're hoping that he's going to teach this to everybody, basically the mid clinch, lock down the fight kind of.
And Karahat knows a lot of Muay Khao technique. All of the Muay Khao men are different, but he's different from them again. But the cool thing about Karahat and Nam Kabun is that they're not categorically knee fighters, so they're actually this kind of transition from other styles and to other styles, because not everyone who comes is going to be Muay Khao. That might not be your style. You're learning within this thread. But they both have Muay Khao energy. Like they both go. They're not the like running back, dancing off fighters of Femur, even though they're very well rounded. They have this like staying in tough.
And Karahat was a Muay Khao fighter when he was young, and then he says he got
back in the provinces he was Muay Khao, but when he moved to Bangkok he said he was too lazy to be Muay Khao. He didn't want to train like that, so he became Muay Femur.
One of the very interesting things he said, no thank you. One of the very interesting things he said was, he was talking about, who was it, Gulab Dam?
Karahat, yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm cueing you.
Yeah, you're not asking me anything. So Tawan Chai just fought Gulab Dam for the 3rd time. Tawan Chai, 100% Femur fighter. He's like Muay Teep, basically, like Teep timing. Then Gulab Dam is Muay Mat, which is a puncher, but punchers have to come forward the same way that Muay Khao do. You're closing distance. Gulab Dam has lost all 3 of these fights. And I was talking to Karahat about the most recent one, and he was saying that Gulab Dam's problem is his weapons are good, but he does not have cruelty, or he's not trying to hurt somebody. So after he throws his weapon, he steps out. He loses his distance. And so he has to come back in and start again and all this stuff. You kind of have to have this, and you'll get this from Diesel Noy, this cruelty, or this like aiming to hurt, staying in. And both Nam Kabun and Karahat stay in that space. They're not a like pop in, pop out. They do take you're not like only going forward. You take distance, but you take it to come back forward with.
It's kind of actually a mode of dominance that really is what he's talking about. Is that if you're going to be a puncher like Gulab Dam, he's saying you punch, and then you stand where you got to. Like you take real estate over and over. And if you do that regularly against a Femur fighter, you start to look dominant in the Thai eye.
Looks like you're controlling.
You look like you're controlling movement. In the West, what they kind of call ring control. So by starting with these 2 legends, we're actually starting on the edge of Muay Khao, about controlling that space. With Karahat learning how to hit the open side, right? The next day is fucking crazy. Diesel Noy and Samson Hassan, both fighters of the year. Both energies are like off the chart personality, charisma. Like Samson Hassan could be my favorite person we ever filmed in the Muay Thai library, and Diesel Noi too. That they're going to be in the same room together is crazy. Samson Hassan is a taxi driver. He doesn't even train people, although he recently fought at Lumpini against Whereupon.
Yeah.
So, and Samson Hassan is more of a puncher, but he considers he considers himself a Muay Khao fighter. He calls himself that. Yeah. But it's also Muay Mat. So you're going to get on one day, morning and afternoon, like the greatest knee fighter ever, and then this world champion boxer Muay Khao fighter. Both fighters of the year. Like I can't even imagine what the camera is going to see. Like, right? It's crazy.
They're amazing, and they're amazing as a combination because they're not.
And they're very different. They're different generations too, right?
Yeah, Samson's young.
Yeah. Yep. Young in comparison. Yep. Right. And then and then the next day, Long Swan, another fighter of the year, as good as any knee fighter who's ever lived. Karahat and Gansak both said he was a nightmare to fight. We're flying him down from above Chiang Mai with his longtime friend Kru Pun. Is that his name?
He's a gym owner up there.
And Long Swan's going to be teaching his knee fighting style. Everybody knows about Long Swan from the Long Swan 1000. We got you doing 1,000 teeps and 1,000 knees every session, which we're going to be pushing for in our summit. Talk a little bit about Long Swan coming all the way down.
His nickname is Mr. Merciless Knee, and I think that's the feeling Karahat and Gansak get when they say his name. They kind of have this like, oh, Long Swan, like pain in the ass to fight. He's coming down from Payao, and he's bringing Kru Pun. A lot of people don't know that there is a way to hold pads for Muay Khao, which makes sense. Like, of course you do pad work the same way everyone does pad work. It's not like you only knee, but because Muay Khao requires so much, like, what's the word?
Persistence?
Endurance.
Oh.
You have to have this relentlessness, this stickiness, this like in close. It is not the same as like 2 kicks, 1-2 kick.
So for summiters or summittees, I don't know how we decide that. The people going, we're going to be doing Muay Khao pad work almost exclusively.
You're gonna die.
It's not going to be typical Thai style pad work which is like combination fight reenactment. You are learning how to knee and persist at close range. Yeah. Right? So
it's hard.
So I don't know if you have some crews that are willing to kind of like get you going in that direction before you arrive. That would be really cool to do.
Totally. And if you're watching the summit, you can learn how to hold Muay Khao. Like you can learn how to hold.
Yeah, you can bring these training techniques into your gym for coaches and or advanced students.
Yeah.
This is really good to do. The interesting thing about Long Swan is that he does not lock in the clinch.
Nope.
We think of clinching as locking because that's how Muay Khao is kind of evolved for now. Yep. But of all the legends that we've found that are pressure Muay Khao fighters, he probably locks the least. Maybe Chung Mung Pet also.
Yeah, Chung Mung Pet also does not lock.
So
Long Swan at least has the like when he double grabs and he pushes his forearms, but he's moving you. He's not locking.
Yeah.
Diesel Noi does something similar with the like pushing,
the pulsing,
and ripping.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
So with Long Swan, we're going to learn these kind of like how to clinch in this old school golden age way.
Keep moving.
This continuity where you never want a static position because a static position means the ref is going to come and break you. So for fighters who might be fighting under more Western style promotions where they're not particularly friendly to the clinch, this is something that would actually be really good for you in K1 style or something like that, is that you never get to a static position. You never get to a dead lock.
Yeah, nothing to break.
There's nothing to break. You just change angle, pull, turn, knee, score, fatigue, right? So Long Swan's going to be bringing that. You're smiling. Why?
I'm laughing because I'm sure that Karahat was like, when they fought back in the day, was like, please just lock me so that I can throw you or something. But when someone's moving, Karahat also moves in the clinch and he's a nightmare. Like when he keeps moving, you're like, where are you? Like you cannot track it.
So after that, we're going to go up to Kem's gym in near Karat, Yadwicha. one of the great new
Modern knee
school
fighters,
Muay
yeah.
Khao fighters ever.
He does lock.
Who does lock
You
will
like
be
to lock?
there.
I like to lock.
Yeah, and
Chem is incredible.
Chem is incredible in the clinch too.
Chem's
So,
technique is insane.
we're not sure if that's the live stream's going to make it up there because of the digital, because of the Wi-Fi connections, but the edited version of the summit will include all that stuff, and for one price you get both. Like in February, the edited commentary version and the live stream. What's kind of interesting, so let me just jump back. Karahat, because he's kind of your buddy now and your coach and mentor and your
I'm also his
idol.
I'm also his manager.
You've booked him. He's going to be with us almost the entire summit. So while everything is, the first 3 days, Yo Kumpan's going to be with us. Karahat is going to be with us day 4, all the way through to the end, all the way through up to Chiang Mai when there's going to be a fight card. So it's going to be very interesting. Karahat is going to be kind of like the guide,
The Virgil.
the Virgil through all of this Muay Khao journey. And he's a very quiet kind of
Oh, but his
person.
eyes are insane. He sees everything. He's the perfect person to have as the around, because he will permit things that don't matter yet
Yeah.
and bring them up when they matter. But he sees all of it, so he knows something that you're doing today you did on Thursday that you don't know. But he saw it.
And he brings a very interesting dimension of Muay Khao, which Diesel Noi talks about a lot, which is this ring control, about hitting people on a certain side or taking a certain angle in order to basically herd them into a striking zone.
Yeah.
Which is a dimension of what also Yo Kumpan does this, where the pressure is designed really for something like chess moves. You allow someone to escape to your right, so you head kick them on the right. Him adding in, there's like a stereotype of the Muay Khao fighter is just like a
Bull.
bruiser bull, right? They call him like a bull, right? It's almost an insult sometimes. Karahat is going to constantly be bringing in this higher level, ring awareness that's going to match up with the legends when they start coming in, right?
It's like rap is dumb, but then it's poetry.
Yeah.
If you're good at it.
If you're good at it, yeah. And then maybe the last thing to talk about, we talked a little bit about the elbow sparring. You got Yo Kumpan, maybe the greatest elbow fighter ever, and then Karahat known for his elbows also, but his elbows is...
Their elbows are similar, but then the differences are really important. They're not...
What is the biggest difference?
They both have this super light touch to hide where the elbow is coming or when it's coming. It's so light. They're like, do not actually put pressure on the hand, because they both know when you put pressure, someone moves, which is the same thing of ring control, of I'm going to hit you here so you go there. So you don't want to put pressure here because they'll go there, unless you want them there to elbow. So you keep it really light so people are like, oh, that's no problem. And then you just come over it. And so Yo Kumpan, he has everything just come straight across, and he's like, who cares if you hit the guard 3 or 4 times, you're going to knock it down. Whereas Karahat likes angles, slippery angles.
That create the cut at the right moment of the fight.
Which seems like not that huge of a difference, but when you see it,
very different in energy.
It's really different because of the way it affects the fight. The
Yeah.
way it shapes it is really different.
So the summit, really thankful to all our patrons who have been supporting the Muay Thai Library Preserve the Legacy project, right? This is born out of the work we've been doing in the Muay Thai Library. The idea that we can bring together the greatest knee fighters ever all into one
It's an anthology.
Like an anthology.
Put an anthology together.
You bring them all together and you celebrate this style that is kind of thought of as a lesser style, but it has to be preserved.
Yeah.
Almost all the legends say that Muay Khao no longer is fought the way that it used to. They have a sadness that the techniques have been lost.
It's been simplified in a weird
into
way.
a more of a power game. So in a way, this is part of that Preserve the Legacy project, to make sure that not only are the men in their fights preserved, but also when they teach something, they're transmitting it to others. And part of what we hope is that this gets into other gyms in the West. You can steal from this in a way.
It's very hard everywhere in the world for women to learn clinching, especially, but Muay Khao goes with clinching. It's very hard in Thailand due to men and women don't really train together a lot, and so the women who train together have much less tools to be working with together, much less influence, much less instruction, and then the people that they're training with might not have this higher level. That's one of the things of training with these female fighters, is their level is like here. So when you get to clinch with a Thai woman whose level is here and feel that, you absorb part of it, you take from it. So having an all-female Muay Khao Summit, where not only are you learning from these legends, they're directly passing it to you, but then you're also experiencing it with these Thai women. When you go home, it's women disseminating this knowledge to their gyms. Everyone benefits, but it's coming from women rather than like, can I have some crumbs from where I'm learning? And I think that's fucking incredible.
Well, a large part of this came out of the fact that when you came to Thailand, it was very hard to even get clinch time in a gym that had a male-only ring. And when we would ask what for technique,
that's not how clinch is taught.
Clinch is not taught that way. It's taught just by doing and doing and doing and doing. So in a large part, this summit is a response to the early frustration you had for several years of even knowing how to fight. And you became a Muay Khao fighter before you even knew how to clinch.
Well, I was a Muay Khao fighter before I had any technique in it, is what it is.
Yeah, but you actually made a move towards becoming a Muay Thai.
Because I discovered it existed. Like, nobody knows that there are styles within, they do now. People actually use like Muay Khao, Muay Femur, Muay Mat. People are starting to understand this vocabulary very recently. But when I came, there was it's like, you either fight like Sanchai or you're wrong. And it's like, nobody fights like Sanchai.
Yeah, it was a real revelation to find this other style, and Krudang was a big first person, wasn't he? Yeah. You looking at me like I'm crazy.
I was trying to remember the style post I wrote. It was the Sakman Kon Jongsanan fight.
That was the first time that we really became aware of this other kind of style, and then Krudang kind of pulled you towards that. He's like, you should be fighting close range.
In Thailand, there are these incredible trainers and teachers, a lot of them, who take a student and they see what their strengths are, what their like kind of tamachat, their natural shape is, and emphasize that. Because there's just so much less experience and knowledge in a lot of gyms in the West, you try to shape them to what you know, rather than what they can be. It's not people's fault, they just don't know a lot.
It's my area of expertise, and often is how you fought yourself.
A gym owner here, Krunu just turned 45 yesterday, he's trained thousands of people. A 45-year-old in America might have 1,000 students over the course of like 5 years, but it's like you just don't have the same like experience of all the time.
I actually didn't follow that point about Krunu.
I'm just saying that the trainers here have experienced so many students that they see that pattern, they know that strength, they know how to train it, like they have all of this stuff.
They've been exposed to great variety.
That's what exposure.
It's a great variety.
Exposure.
And so I would say, even if you're not a Muay Khao fighter or don't want to be one, you should learn about Muay Khao fighting. If nothing else, you might face one. So it's good to know what they're trying to do to you, so you could not let them do it. A big part of femur fighting is countering the Muay Khao impression on a fight, right?
And you're gonna get caught at some point and want to get out of it or want to do something. You look at a fighter like Sylvie, who's in the Muay Thai library. Dude hates clinching. He does not want to clinch. Learning clinch throws from him, because he doesn't fucking want to clinch, are awesome. It's like, that's done now. Like,
we finish the clinch as soon as possible. Any last words about what Muay Khao means to you or to Muay Thai?
I feel like for me, because of where I sit as a Westerner in Thailand, filming for the Muay Thai library, trying to preserve the legacy, fighting the way I do, training the way I do, I feel like I have this Muay Khao identity. That's because of my position. And I don't think that people have to have that in order to benefit so much from what Muay Khao has to offer. I am not Muay Femur by any stretch, but when I train with and learn from like Kem or Karahat, who's Femur, all of these things, I don't have to identify with it or say it's me or even like head in that direction. But the things I've learned from those other elements of Muay Thai all feed into my Muay Khao, right? Like it's not strict.
Yeah.
So people don't have to look at this as being single interest or like, we're basically going from like the outer limits of Muay Khao and super micro going in and then kind of pulling back out. So just, you can see the variety, you can see the detail, you can see everything. I think it's exciting.
One of the, just as a closing thought, one of the most interesting moments to me of all the things we filmed with Legends was when you told Samson that his technique was
You're gonna cry.
I am crying. I am crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
It's crazy because Samson Hassan, one of the great fighters ever, was probably told that his Muay Thai was ugly, like awful, a lot. He's from a little town in Isan, right? Royet. Podunk, right? He doesn't have a lot of...
He trained at the same gym as Yod Kun Pan, but they're different ages. So Yod Kun Pan is the like P and Samson is the Nong. So because of their age difference, there's a little bit of like social separation. Yod Kun Pan, talking about a fighter of the year, Samson Hassan, what a great fighter, is like, he ran really hard. Like he was a good runner. Like people do not say nice things about Samson's style.
And this actually is about almost all Muay Khao fighters, that there is a kind of demerit on them. Even Diesel Noi, who beat Samart, is downgraded to some degree. Oh, it's just his height, or he's just a knee fighter, that he's not thought of as the greatest fighter ever.
Yeah.
Like there is a loss of dignity to almost every Muay Khao fighter in Thailand. Just a little something, a thumb on the scale. And when you told Samson that his technique was beautiful, and it is fucking beautiful, watch that video.
It was like an impulsive, he did it and I felt it and I was just like, that is fucking beautiful. Like it, I was not like oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it was like, that is beautiful.
And he was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Like I've never heard the word beautiful
connected to me.
And my technique. It's this beautiful moment of redemption.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this is about too, is that this is about redeeming this lesser style that is just filled with technique. But because of the Thai aesthetic and the way that Muay Thai in Thailand, maybe the like higher brow Muay Thai, always wants to distance itself from like any kind of like tough manness. Like there's always a tendency to like grade down the Muay Khao fighter. And so here we are bringing together the greatest ever and like spreading their knowledge in this way. Like, Samson, your technique is beautiful. Like there's something makes me want to cry almost, because these men, they're defined by their Muay, right?
What you just saw is our discussion on what is Muay Khao and talking about the Muay Khao Summit coming up in December, which I'm incredibly excited about. If you guys want to watch the live stream of that, and you can watch it after the fact, they come together, link to that is in the description where you can get access to that.